There are over 70 operators in Rainbow Six Siege right now, with Ubisoft intending to add many more. Most of these operators on release are fairly balanced. However, in this video, I've selected 7 particular operators that were absolutely broken on release. In chronological order, the first broken operator in Rainbow Six Siege history was actually Thatcher. The way that Thatcher works now is a little bit different than how Thatcher used to work in the past, which is why some of you watching this video might be wondering how Thatcher was ever even overpowered. As you know, Thatcher's EMP grenades right now just disable any electronic gadgets in the radius of the EMP grenade's explosion. But back then, he wouldn't just disable the gadget, no, he would completely destroy the gadget. This made bandit tricking way harder and essentially disassemble an entire defense with the throw of one grenade.
GPS satellites, unmanned drones, fucking laser sights. The more crutches you have, the more it hurts when they're kicked out from under you. If there's one thing I know for sure, it's that a 6-inch blade never loses reception.
Even back then, the EMP grenade effect would still go through any walls, and Thatcher still had 3 EMPs, meaning that Thatcher was a must-pick every round because you could kill almost all utility for absolutely free. Not only this, but when the operator bans eventually came out, he was, and still technically is, the most banned operator of all time throughout the years that operator bans have been a thing. Also, secondary EMP grenades weren't always a gadget, meaning that the only way to help get walls open back in the day was to use a Thatcher. This made Thatcher not only picked every round for how broken he was, but also because no one could do what he did nearly as easily. It's safe to say that support players back in the day absolutely had it made, and Thatcher was undoubtedly overpowered for support players. But let's move on to an operator that was overpowered for fraggers on attack, and that was Blackbeard. Blackbeard on release worked a lot different than he does now. As of right now, Blackbeard is a shield operator, and his ability allows him to remove the top part of his shield to expose the assault rifle in his hands, which allows him to shoot you from behind his shield. This is still broken, don't get me wrong, and Blackbeard right now is banned a lot, but this isn't the most broken Blackbeard ever has been. In fact, on release, you couldn't even think about headshotting a Blackbeard ever. You see, Blackbeard had a face shield that mounted on his weapon with a lot of HP. And when I say on this face shield there was a lot of HP, I mean a lot of HP. Now, to be fair, back then he only had 1 face shield, whereas later down the line the HP would be significantly nerfed and he'd gain 2 face shields. But make zero mistake, 1 Blackbeard face shield was enough, and he was the most played entry fragger on attack for a long time, longer than he ever should have been. Somebody else who was way too overpowered for way too long was the operator that came out the very next season after Blackbeard, which was Caveira. You might not believe me when I say this, but Caveira at the time was the best roamer at one point in the game. On release, Cav's pistol did a whopping 99 damage per shot. That is the most amount of damage a pistol has ever done in Siege history. This would allow you to down attackers with 1 single bullet, either to the head or even to the body. This was huge because downing somebody would, and still does, give you the ability to interrogate them. Interrogating someone works the exact same as it does now, so you already know how good and influential an interrogation can be. Not only was her pistol good, but her loadout was better back then. She brought a nitro cell on release, which, if you're good, is a free kill most of the time. People also didn't have as many roam clear operators back then, which made her even more oppressive. Think about it. Back then, Jackal wasn't out, Lion wasn't out, Dokkaebi wasn't out, and Deimos wasn't out. In fact, not only were there little roam clear operators in the game, but there were no roam clear operators in the game. And with people using flank drones less back then too, Caveira was an absolute menace to the ranked pool.
Dude, they just droned me, but like, they didn't drone me. Oh my god. I'm gonna wait a long time before turning. There's like a lot of people beside me, dude. Oh my god. They're all coming.
Oh, you're in the small tower?
Interrogation?
Spill it.
Yeah, covering you.
Yeah.
Making your ally wasn't very challenging.
I got another one.
Found ways to have fun.
Nice, man.
What are they doing in fucking attic and
I don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're playing super slow
chance.
and fast. Like half of their team is playing fast,
Can't hide.
half of their team is playing slow, and so you get those like weird disconnections.
One op 4 remaining.
Ah, I didn't want to kill him. Let's make sure we secure the win. Let's not go overtime against them. Now you here?
he's outside tower, by the way.
Outside tower, right? Okay, I'm gonna go back to site because that's what he has to do. Let's play the objective. Oh, okay. What the fuck?
She was by far and large the most broken roamer in the game on release. Well, almost the most broken roamer. You see, we're not accounting for the actual best roamer on release, which was Ela. Ela on release didn't have anything honestly that crazy that stood out from the rest that made her so good. Rather, it was the combination of a lot of things that made her a broken operator overall. First of all, you had her weapon. If you think the Scorpion Evo is a good SMG now, you should have seen the monster it was on release. It had almost 0 recoil and the same quick fire rate it does now. Plus, having 50 bullets in the magazine. Pair this up with her being a 3-speed, and this made her the perfect fragger on release. You also have to take into account when she was released. Year 2, Season 3, otherwise known as Operation Blood Orchid, was when her and Legion were released in the same season. Legion was another very powerful trap operator on release, and with Ela already being a great fragger at the same exact time, this introduced the first hard meta of Rainbow Six Siege, which was the trap meta. This brings me into my next point, which was her Grismot mines. These mines slash traps were good too. On release, her mines would slow you down, take away your ability to sprint, and the concussion effect was much more effective towards actually blinding you and stunning you in place. Plus, she had 4 of these mines on release, whereas now she only has 3. She even had an innate passive ability that made it to where if she ever got downed, she could manually set off a 5th Ela mine around her to stun anyone in her vicinity. You also have to take into account that movement was a lot faster in Rainbow Six Siege as well back then. You could lean faster and lean farther, you could crouch spam more, and just move faster in general. Her gun and playstyle fit all of these things perfectly.
Alright.
Alright.
Where is it?
Bar again. Purple bar. Alright.
Oh.
There's another one there. Yeah.
Oh.
Montage. Montage. Hold on.
She was probably the most broken defender ever released due to just how easy it was to take gunfights with her in-game on her release. But now that we've gone over the most broken defender on this list, it's time to go over the most broken attacker, and that was Lion. You might be a player right now that thinks Lion is a mid-tier operator, and to be honest, you'd kind of be right. I think as it stands, Lion is perfectly balanced, and in the middle of the pack when it comes to siege balancing, and he's where he honestly should be. But it wasn't always this way. You see, every time you'd Lion scan someone, the information you'd get was a bit different back then, to say the least. Right now, when someone gets scanned by Lion, they get pinged 3 times with a second in between each ping. This ping is also on the operator's body instead of on their head, meaning you can't just wall bang headshot people with the pings that you're provided. So how did Lion scans used to work? Well, instead of pinging you once every second, it was a continuous ping until the duration of the scan was over. Kind of like how Deimos' tracking works now. Not only was it a continuous scan, but instead of pinging you if you moved, it would outline your entire body perfectly in red, essentially giving the Lion player and his entire team free wall hacks anytime anyone moved during his scan. People when he released also weren't used to his scan, meaning more people on average would fall for it and move during his scan too. And also you had a huge issue with the other operators that were released. Back in the day, Dokubi was also out, and Bolo had started to inspire kids to just play the game a little bit faster than they had been, specifically on people like Buck and Ash. All of these factors, plus more, combined into the most attacker-sided meta Rainbow Six Siege has ever seen. This was the rush meta. Lion on release not only created this meta, but was the single driving factor behind it, allowing people to hit clips like these.
Well, you asked me to open it.
Cigar's clear. Vigil's on ping.
John's jumping right.
Move through a flash.
Wow.
Oh my god.
White stairs.
In bathroom. Oh my god, Bolo.
What the fuck?
I don't
Friendly
know.
mission successful.
Dude, what the?
Lion was so good, in fact, that Pro League players petitioned for him to be banned from Pro League, which actually ended up happening because everyone voted yes on the petition, or at least most of them did, which is absolutely insane to think about. An operator that was also being petitioned to be banned in Pro League as well is the next defender on this list, which is Goyo. Goyo used to work a lot differently than he does now. As of right now, he places 4 canisters that, if destroyed or shot, will blow up and release a pool of fire for 20 seconds. Because of this, he's used as an entry denial operator like Smoke or Tachanka more than anything. But back on his release, he wasn't used for his area denial at all, because back then his gadget not only denied areas, but it was also immediately on a deployable shield. So instead of just deploying the canister like you do now, you would deploy a deployable shield with the canister automatically on the back of that shield. And considering he had 2 of these at the time, that meant that one operator could bring 2 deployable shields. Most of you know that deployable shields are the best secondary gadget in the game for defenders. So what people did back then was bring Goyo, another deployable shield, plus Jaeger before his rework, which could deny 9 pieces of utility, and they would bring wall denial. This made it completely impossible to clear all of the defender utility no matter what operators on the attack were being played. This introduced one of the most stale defender-sided metas ever, which was the utility meta. Now, you might think that having a utility-based game where utility is the meta is a good thing, especially after just suffering the TDM meta a few years back that I know a lot of you watching hated, but it actually wasn't a good thing. There was not just healthy amount of utility, but way too much of it. That, like I said, no possible combination of attackers could even get 75% of this utility, much less all of it. Goyo single-handedly made this a problem. Not to mention when he came out during Operation Ember Rise, deployable shields were reworked, meaning that you could see in front of the shield, making them way more powerful overnight with this update when Goyo came out. This was bad, and after seasons of complaints, Ubisoft nerfed him to what he is today, which, to be fair, is still a strong operator, but not too overpowered like he used to be. Someone who was too overpowered, though, was the last operator on this list, which was Azami on release. Think of what Goyo did on release, and that's exactly what Azami did for the defense too. Now, unlike other operators on this list, Azami on release actually works almost the exact same as she does now, but with one crucial difference that makes her much more balanced in today's game compared to how she used to be. You see, today, her Kiba barriers are susceptible to bullets, and with a good gun like a DMR, you can get rid of 2 entire barricades with less than 1 magazine in your gun. But back in the day when she was released, she was very quickly crowned as the best defender in the game, seemingly overnight, because back then her gadget was bulletproof. So just like Goyo gave you 2 extra deployable surfaces, Azami gave you 5 extra deployable surfaces. Not to mention, she brings impact grenades, allowing her to destroy soft utility in her own right. These impacts before the impact nerf also allowed you to trick certain walls and impact trick your own Kiba barricades. She also had a deagle for some sight setup, making her ability not only overpowered, but her loadout absolutely lethal compared to other defenders. One other thing that made her broken was that her Kiba barriers, when deployed, essentially counted as its own surface in-game, meaning that you could get crazy parkour spots and vault prompts out of nowhere that were never possible before Azami's release. Playing Azami back in the day made you feel like you were a wizard.
You just stand on top of the deer and the place is the closest to the edge.
Like how so exactly?
Like so it's like
So it's vertical
like
or so it's on
off,
top of it?
No, on top of it. So it's hanging off this side.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's insane.
You can hold a astral window from up top if you reinforce it.
She was very quickly and concisely made the queen of defense second she was released. That's it for today's video. Check out this next video on screen, and I'll see you there.